So I'm about to learn you something about the martial art.
Friendly neighborhood Master Allen. I am in my regular Master Allen costume, and I'm gonna jump off of some of the stuff that Mike said. Credentials. Now, in the video, Mike talks about basically that there are three types of martial arts, and talks about how those like martial arts function, and they all more or less use the same stuff. They just call it different names. And then the meta of competition for that martial art shapes the types of techniques that they prioritize over others, and like what things they don't do at all and what things they emphasize heavily and all that kind of stuff. But he says that everything is basically one of three arts. They are a grappling art, a striking art, or a weapons art. And striking doesn't just mean knuckles and jawbones, like you are delivering kinetic energy with your body into their anatomy and making their internal organs deal with it. Or you are using some of their bones as levers against other of their bones to make things come apart. Or you are hitting them with some variation of a stick. Some of you are going to try to tell me that bladed implements are not just sticks, but a bladed weapon is just a stick with extra steps. Of course, there is always the option for something better than a stick, but anyway. His classification is great, you can roll with that. But I like to think about different martial arts styles as putting different things in their toolbox. It's like some martial arts prefer to have a toolbox that is very pared down, it's very minimalist, and you have as efficient a toolbox as possible. And other martial arts fill up their toolbox like an unsupervised 9-year-old in a toy store with a red slushie and a giant stack of gift cards. And every martial art, when it comes to that art's curriculum, is going to fill out their toolbox from one of 4 bins. If you make weapons its own bin, then it's kind of 5, except if you're using weapons as a separate bin, rather than an extension of the other 4, then you're using them wrong. But here's the 4! Striking. And for our purposes, striking means I take some part of my upper body and use it to deliver kinetic energy into somebody else. So whether that's an elbow, a hand strike, a forearm, a finger gouge, a shoulder strike, a headbutt, whatever, that's all striking. That's that bin, because mechanically there's so much overlap. Bin number 2 is kicking. And so kicking, I use some part of my lower body to deliver kinetic energy into someone's anatomy to cause them harm. Bin 3 is felling. Now, some styles will think about felling as throwing people to the ground. Some styles will think about felling as throwing people at the ground. I personally like to think about felling as hitting people with the planet, because at any given time, it is going to be the nearest convenient inanimate object. Remember, kids, the easiest way to make sure you don't break the tiny bones in your hand on people's very hard craniums is you hit them with the conveniently located inanimate objects instead of the tiny bones in your hand. And then the 4th toolbox we will call grappling. And grappling is a much bigger subset of stuff than people realize, because a lot of people think about grappling in the context of being on the ground, or only in the context of joint manipulation and just like cranking things in directions that they don't go very far. But grappling functionally, you decide where someone is in space instead of them. And so grappling you really want to think about as more than just grabbing and seizing and twisting and that kind of stuff. Because ultimately, all of this stuff is just simple machines, and when you really think about the simple machines, everything is just a wheel, a triangle, or a lever. So everything in martial arts eventually just becomes a circle, a triangle, a lever, or a straight line. Because if you combine a triangle with a wheel and then you move it along a straight line, it becomes a drill or a spiral or a funnel. You look at martial arts that have hand strikes, and they all have more or less the same hand strikes that they do the same way, because there's just only so many ways you can hit somebody with your hand and not break your finger bones. Because any martial art that you end up practicing and putting into implementation, when you fight, you are using you. You are not using the system. The system just helps you learn you. The techniques are not magic powers. The forms do not energize your chi so that you can punch somebody and turn their spine into vertebrae bullets. You cannot use breathing exercises to fracture the surface of the earth beneath you. It's fun to try. There you go. That's what every martial art is made out of. So you can kind of think about each one as having its own Lego bin full of spare parts that it can construct stuff out of. And then by learning the system, you learn how to use those Lego pieces.